How's it going, people? Welcome back to my channel. I've got a very special guest with me today. I think it's the first time he's on my channel live, that's for sure. I remember I did do a couple interviews with you outside of the stadium when I first started my YouTube channel. Do you remember them days?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. You got me a lot of views them early days, you know?
Well, listen, man, what can you say? I'm glad that it's going well for you. And, I've always got time for you, Turkish.
You're a popular figure online, man. As people can see with the views you still get on AFTV, you know, you don't really keep up much of a social media presence, but your AFTV views don't dwindle, and that's good to see because you talk a lot of sense.
Yeah, for me, listen, I've always said to people, it's all about quality, not quantity for me. I've never been one to chase views. I don't like to be intentionally antagonistic just to get a view here and there. For me, it's cheap, and you get caught out with inconsistencies if that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's all about quality. So for me, I don't mind if two people view it, but provided I'm saying what I truly believe and I'm saying the right things, and that's it.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of love in the chat as well. Mo is serious. Turkish and Mo, great combo. We're going to try to bring you this as much as possible. Maybe once a month, you know, you might get a couple a month, you know, if you're lucky. But we're going to try to keep it as consistent as possible because I always get along with Mo on and off camera. So it makes sense. And we've got a lot of similar opinions, but we look at it in very different ways at times. And I like to hear how Mo puts it across. A lot of the time, it's a lot better than the way I put it across. That's why I love to hear it.
No, but you know what? Is different viewpoints, and the thing is, sometimes you get vexed. I think the only real difference is, Turkish, that generally I come across calmer, but it's not that's the truth. It's just how I kind of put it across, maybe. But I know that the passion that you have and that I have, it's similar, man. And it's interesting to hear someone like you, because for me, like, you'll look at things from a different angle sometimes, and I'm a very opinionated person, but I will kind of be like, oh yeah, fair enough. I didn't think of that or whatever. You always come out with a good viewpoint. So that's why, listen, I always watch your interviews. I always kind of feel like, yeah, maybe you've thought of something that I haven't.
Yeah. Likewise, likewise. I know you're not on every week, I tend to look for lead judges and yourself. But aside from that, I steer clear of a lot of views because the fan base is still so divided, Mo. Yeah. We've known each other a few years now, dating back to the Wenger period. And I thought at the time, I thought past Wenger would eventually unite us as a fan base towards the main issue. But look at where we are right now, Mo. It feels like a bit of a here we are again situation, just another manager.
Yeah, exactly that. Just that. And whether you agreed with it or not, the whole Wenger thing, like, him leaving the club, a lot of people would always say, be careful what you wish for. And it's those be careful what you wish for people now that are kind of saying, this is what we meant. And fair to them, they were right. It still doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision for Arsene Wenger to go when he went. But, what they were saying when they said, be careful what you wish for, is that there's no guarantee of an improvement. And we're seeing that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes all the way up to ownership. That's what really caused the division. But it's up to us to fix it, and that's literally because no one else is going to bring the fan base together. It can only be us. And the reason I say here we are again is because if we'd done this show, Mo, this time last year, we'd be just talking about Unai Emery and we'd be discussing his situation and his form. But we are here with Arteta. We're coming off the back of a draw against Leeds, underwhelming performance, regardless of the red card. I saw your interview. I like the fact that you didn't pin it all on Pepe. And I like the fact that you steered clear of not insulting him, but talking about it too much, because we all know he's stupid for that. We all know you don't fall for those tricks in the game, so we don't need to talk about it. What we need to talk about is why it didn't change when we put Ober up top and started Pepe.
And the thing is, how many red cards for violent conduct have we had this season? That's not the narrative. That's not happening every game. But what is happening every game is that we can't create chances. And I think, we all knew what would happen. Pepe did something dumb. We've seen loads of players do it before. We're going to see loads of players do it since. It will always happen in football. But as Arsenal fans, we've seen plenty of our players do that in the past. And they've gone on to have incredible careers at Arsenal. It's all about how you react to it. A lot of people might not be aware of this, but Patrick Vieira actually wanted to leave English football because of all the red cards that he was getting. He felt like he just couldn't adapt, or he was like being treated harsh, or whatever it might have been. But he actually wanted to leave English football. But obviously he persevered, and look how he adapted his game and, stopped getting, obviously he still, had that streak in him, but it wasn't as And with this one, it's not even like that. This is just a one-off. And, you know, once you make the mistake once, it's harder to make it again because, you know, Pepe knows how much stick he would have got from the fan base and stuff. So, yeah, as you say, Turkish, that's not the narrative here. The narrative is something far greater. And it goes without saying that he was an idiot for that. You really don't need to dwell on that point too much. If he does it again, then, yeah, that'll be a massive talking point. But, yeah.
Definitely, because looking at the game, I think the first 51 minutes, if we're analysing that and gauging something of the first 51 minutes with 11 men, I think we would have been lucky to take a 0-0 draw away even then. Yeah. And I think Pepe being sent off probably improved the team performance slightly. I think we worked a bit harder and we created the best chance of the game with Saka, who was unlucky. I won't say too much about that. He did miss a big chance, but he also came on and, you know, showed up the rest of the attacking players in a sense, because yet again, an 18, 19-year-old is our best attacking player on the pitch.
Yeah.
Why didn't it change, Mo? Like we played before the game, I brought out a video on my channel and I said, there's non-negotiables for me moving into this game. I said, I want to see Oba up top. I want to see Pepe play in place of Willian. On top of the Dubai trip now, it made sense to leave him out. And I want to see Maitland-Niles replace Bellerin. 2 of the 4 happened, but why didn't it change at all with a formation change and Oba up top?
For me, it's what I've been saying all season. Like, this is how I Arsenal this season. We're a primarily defensive-minded, you know. I think, and that might change in future. I'm not. Whatever I say right now is not completely definitive of Mikel Arteta's managerial style. You know, each manager has a journey in a team, and there's certain things you need to fix before others. And the thing that he has fixed at Arsenal was making us a bit more solid at the back was the most important thing. That's what he needed to do when he came in. He didn't need to improve the attack. He needed to improve the defence. And he's done that. And as a result, the attack has got worse. But I think in doing that, this is what I've been saying all season. He's almost basically saying, I've got 11 players on the pitch. 8 of you stop us losing the game. The 3 forwards go and win us the game. And to me, there's just no cohesion in the team in terms of breaking between the lines and linking our players, our 3 forwards that are going to win us the game, because generally we're playing with the 3 up top.
Yeah.
And it's just not working. And for me, it's just one player. I think 8 and 3 is probably not the right balance. If he did it and said, look, I'm going to focus on defence, I'm going to do a 7 and 4 arrangement, even that, I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like teams need to be more dynamic than that. Even players in defensive positions have the intelligence to be able to go and attack and know when to pick those moments, and then also have the willingness to work hard and get back when, you know, they need to, because the attack hasn't worked out how they wanted it to. But in any case, 7 and 4 is a minimum for me, and you need that one player linking the midfield and the forwards. Yeah. And is, you know, we all know who that player is in our team that's probably best at doing that. But if it's not going to be him, it needs to be someone else. And because we don't have that player, or we're not giving someone that license to be that player, because ultimately we've still got people in the team that could potentially do it, but that's not the way we're setting up. Complete creativity, haven't scored a goal from open play in God knows how many hours. All the signs are there. And for me, it is all about that one player and adjusting our system to accommodate that one player.
Yeah, you're right. I think the balance needs to be a lot fairer. Like you said, 7-4 makes a lot more sense to me. But right now, it is the 3 that are relied upon. And without service, you can't rely upon them. But what I want to say is, without Thomas Partey, we've seen Xhaka, Ceballos and Willock start under Emery, I believe. And the transition was never good enough in a 4-3-3. It was never fluid enough. We was conceding shots like we did against Leeds. I remember a Watford game where we conceded a hell of a lot of shots on goal, amongst other games that season. So as much as it didn't work out against Leeds, I'd like to see it with Partey. But your thoughts on Arteta? Is the pressure building right at this moment?
Of course, man. Of course it is. You know, we're 9 games down in the season, and we're, what is it, 10th or 11th in the league? I don't even like looking at the league table these days. But of course the pressure builds, man. You know, I'm not saying that it's pressure to the extent that we're talking about his job. I still think, in reality, his position is safe at the moment. And also, I think that if you were to go and look at bookmakers' odds on who's going to get sacked next, I don't think Arteta's going to be top of that pile. You know, so I think he's secure in that respect. But there is pressure for sure, because right now it's absolutely not good enough. If this was Arsene Wenger, in his latter years, if we started a season like this, we'd all be adamant that he's got to go. So this is form that starts that conversation about a manager and his performances and stuff like that. Until we're a lot more consistent and we haven't lost as many as we've won, that pressure and that conversation will always be there.
Yeah, you are right. It's always going to go to the manager, and I think a lot of that is based down to the fact that he is the one that does the pre and post match press conferences. He is the one that answers for the 90 minutes every week. But my problem with it is it's a balance, and it was the same balance under Unai Emery, and it was the same balance for me under Arsene Wenger for a few years before I even appeared on AFTV, and that balance was supporting the manager and his ideas, but also getting this board and this ownership to take on more ownership and really take this club in the direction they promised us we were going to go in when we moved into the stadium. And my problem with it now is I was part of putting pressure on Wenger. Do I regret it? No. I look back at that and I loved Wenger, and it is a shame the way it ended, but it had to be done. Now, Unai Emery, I feel like it become untenable in the end. The players down tools, and even though Unai Emery was the only manager of the past three to come out openly and tell us we have no money, we can only loan players, and he also told us that he wanted Thomas Partey, he wanted Fabinho, but he got Torreira, a player we've got rid of within 2 years. Again, mismanagement there from above that no one seems to take ownership for. So with Arteta now, the here we go again is the pressure's going to build on Arteta. Fine, he's making mistakes that you can call out and you can criticize. But my question is, do you think this board and this ownership will put the right manager in place if Arteta rightfully gets the sack in a month's time or 6 weeks' time when we are, or if we are in the bottom 5 to 10 and it's still going the same way? The manager you want, Mo, whoever it is, do you think and trust this ownership to put that man in place?
It's sad though, Turkish. You're asking me a question basically saying Arteta's departure is inevitable. I'm not there yet mentally. I'm not there. I still actually think Arteta can be a successful manager at Arsenal. But the fact of the matter is, you're asking me whether I trust that the way the club operates and the people who operate the club will make the right decision for a new manager when that time comes. It's not really about that specific replacement of manager. It's a wider question. You're asking me if I trust the board, if I trust the men in the suits. And the answer is obviously no, I don't trust them.
Do you know why I asked it? Sorry, Mo, just before you continue answering, is because Liverpool, their ownership hasn't really changed. They still work within their limits. Tottenham, their ownership probably screwed the screws a bit tighter under Poch. He had to work under extreme conditions, but they got the right man in place. And even under this ownership with Kroenke, we could potentially pull one out of the bag, and that's why I asked the question, because it's not only do we none of us should trust the board. But regarding the replacement, the Ten Hags or the Nagelsmans, or even recently Hasenhüttl, they sound like names that might be able to turn it around under a budget, under conditions. But really,
listen, I kind of feel like the names that you've mentioned. If we're being completely honest and objective, if there was another club out there, let's say a Lyon or whatever, big club in France, second to PSG, in terms of expectation, in terms of winning trophies, or let's say a Dortmund or whatever in Germany, second to Bayern. A club like that, I just think if they were looking for a young, dynamic manager, they'd be looking at some of the names you've mentioned. But I also think Arteta would be part of that conversation, personally. I think he's very highly rated. So I just really, at this stage, I'm not thinking about other managers. I really do feel that Arteta could be a manager that we're talking about. You're talking about young, exciting managers. I feel like he could easily end up being one of those managers. But it's interesting. You mentioned Torreira, right? And you mentioned that Emery wanted someone else, got Torreira, and then look, we've sold him. I think that's because some of the decisions that Emery made did not utilize Torreira how we should have utilized him. I personally think Torreira is a very good player. I really, really do. And I feel like in the right team with the right manager, he could do very well. I haven't kept a close enough eye on how he's done at Atletico, but I expect him to do well there. I don't know if you have or not.
Yeah, it hasn't. He's had moments, but overall, it's been underwhelming so far.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how he does there, because I personally feel like if any manager plays to Torreira's strengths, it is Simeone. So I do expect him to succeed there. But let's not forget, what did Emery do with Torreira? He tried to play him further forwards. Maybe his thinking was to win the ball higher up the pitch, which I get to an extent, but ultimately just play to player strengths, and it didn't work. And I want to look at Arteta, the way some of the decisions he's making around certain players, it's not sitting right with me. I don't agree with it. And I wonder, Emery almost died on the sword of making some decisions that I just think that made players question his overall decision making, and they maybe just didn't give them the confidence in him. That's how it always appeared to me, that they the confidence in him to go out there and really, really give 110%. It's a weird one, but the mental aspect of football is so important. If you go out on a pitch and you look at your system and you think, oh God, why are we lining up like this? And you just don't understand the logic. That is a really, really negative place to start, playing a football game, no matter what level you're at. And I felt like that's how it was with Emery. And now I'm starting to think, is that how it is with Arteta as well? In terms of setup, but the players just kind of thinking, I'm fed up, I'm frustrated, we know this doesn't work. When you go out thinking, I know this doesn't work, that 8+3 arrangement that I'm kind of referring to, and look, people might disagree with that, that's just how I see it, then you're not going to win games. The margins at the top level, when you don't really believe in what you're doing, and that freedom of expression and confidence is flowing through your veins and your football and every stride, when that's not happening, it's going to be very, very difficult. And it's that difficulty that I'm seeing right now. And I really wonder, if we were to get the right player in, for example, and the players thought, oh, finally, that's what we've been thinking, that's what we've been saying, it could all change. So I don't feel like Arteta's a million miles off. I don't think the players have lost total faith with him, but I do think some of his decisions could really be impacting how the players feel right now, and then how that translates on the pitch.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. There's a super chat here from Kevin that I just want to read out. Arteta talks the talk, but has failed to walk the walk. He talks about bringing in youth. No debuts given under him. Is there no number 10 in the academy? And going back to what you said, thanks for the super chat, Kevin, and thanks for your comment. Going back to what you said about Torreira and Kevin mentioning the number 10 role, it was an issue under Emery. And for a second, I just want us to, because we're gonna talk about Ozu in a sec, and that's the easy answer to the question. But let's just say we know Ozu is not great at football anymore, and he doesn't deserve his space. Just for a second, maybe Unai Emery, under the pressure from fans and everyone to open up a bit creatively, decided to put Torreira in the number 10 to potentially break it down higher up the pitch, which in essence sounds like you're trying to start on the front foot. You're trying to defend with attack, which sounds good on paper. It just didn't work. It didn't help him, and in the end, it did cost him. Arteta's now in the same situation after a summer where the majority of the summer we was linked to both Partey and a creative midfielder in Aouar. Aouar didn't happen. All of a sudden, Partey came back, and it did happen. Both very different players. Can Arteta be really fully to blame for this problem in particular, which is the creativity side, the transition, the fluidity, when we've seen it before under two managers? Because it wasn't only under Emery. Wenger lost the fluidity and the transition in the last couple of years too.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was ever this, if we ever had this lack of fluency under Arsene Wenger. This is awful. This really, really is awful. I mean, the stat about the last time we scored a goal in open play, that is shocking. It's literally unbelievable. And we're just not creating chances. Before the game against Leeds, I mentioned, I was doing something with Robbie on AFTV, and I mentioned to him that Harry Maguire has had more shots than Aubameyang this season. And Maguire has had more shots than Lacazette this season. It doesn't matter the fact that Aubameyang is not playing out wide, not playing in the middle, because even the guy that's playing in the middle, Lacazette, Harry goddamn Maguire has had more shots.
Crazy. It's crazy.
So clearly it's not working. It's not a case that we're creating the chances, but it's just that Lacazette isn't good enough. Even Aubameyang played down the middle. It still didn't work. We're just not creating the chances, not getting the shots off. And then every single shot is so important. You know, it's so crucial that they go and put that away. And that pressure is not, you know, obviously they should be able to handle that pressure, but it's not good for them. It's not good for the team. Aubameyang had a shot in the first half, I think, against Leeds, ended up slicing it. In his head, he's probably thinking, oh, God, you know, that was my chance. And that's a bad place to go.
Yeah.
My point, well, that with what you're saying, that let's just assume Ozil's not very good at football, he's not going to get in the team. You can't separate that from the fact that, you know, because on one hand, you're saying that if we're assuming that, is it really Arteta's fault? He didn't get that creative midfielder. You can't separate the two. I feel like I do appreciate what you're saying and that putting that hypothetical out there about Ozil, but it's not a hypothetical. It's Arteta's control, and he should be doing something about it. Even if I accept your statement there and say, fine, let's not talk about Ozil, then I'll look at this. We signed Willian. He chose to sign Willian on a 3-year contract, taking him up to the age of 35. We could have put funds elsewhere.
Yeah.
Obviously not the answer. We could have put those funds elsewhere. You're telling me that we can't come up with a better idea than that. That player could have, because ultimately Willian can play number 10 if we want him to. It could have been someone else who I think would have been a much better investment. I mean, rumour has it, Soboslai, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Oh, yeah. Szoboszlai,
yeah, 25 million euro release clause. I mean, that's outrageous. He's a great prospect. So for me, it is on Arteta again. He's choosing to leave Ozil out. He chose to sign Willian. And if he didn't choose to sign Willian, and Willian is actually about agents or this and that, as many people suspect it might be, well, listen, ultimately, then Arteta, you need to grow a pair because you're going to die on this sword.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because the William one, how did you just describe it? You said, can't we think of anything better, basically? But then I look at Petr Cech, for example, and I think the same. And I look at David Luiz and I think the same. So it's happened under different managers. It's happened under Wenger, where you look at the signing and you think, convenience. That's all it was for the player and for us. It was just down the road, a bit of a cheap signing. That's why I can only think above Arteta. When I see the team play now, I don't think of Arteta anymore. Like I didn't even think about Emery. I thought of above because regardless of manager, regardless if I get the manager I want in next, I don't think any manager at the moment under these conditions can compete, can get this squad up to scratch with the resources and tools that Kroenke and them give. Because under Cech, under Luiz and William, we had different people controlling the head of football and direction them times. So what's the variable there? There is none. You have to look above and there is none again because Kroenke must be providing them with the same resources. If you're still working out deals like that, it must be because your hands are tied behind your back.
Yeah, but you might be right, but ultimately it's down to a lack of resources. But I'm just talking about the resources that we did spend. You know, Willian is on like, how much is he on? About 100 plus K a week?
100 plus, too much.
Yeah, for 3 years. You know, we're talking about what, 15 million there or something like that. And in reality, the cost of the club because of other employment costs is much greater as well. And I just think to myself, we could have spent that money elsewhere. I don't agree that we've used the resources that we have been allocated by the owners, who are a problem, have been used wisely enough. I have to admit, I did agree with Petr Cech. When we signed Petr Cech, I did agree with that. I was absolutely anti-Willian. I was absolutely anti-Luiz as well, because we had the defence and we needed a fix, and we're buying one of the biggest clowns out there in terms of his career amongst top-level defenders. I didn't understand that. So for me, the Willian one, I'm just very, very disappointed by. And let's not forget, we made people redundant, 55 people redundant, only to go and sign Willian. And the cost savings for 55 people are quite a few million less than how much we're going to be paying Willian over 3 years, taking him up to 35 years of age. My point is, I would rather have even invested in our youth, giving them minutes. Had Arteta said, look, had he come out and been honest and said, look, this is a transitional season, I'm going to be promoting a lot of youth in the hope that the season after, we're really going to deliver. And had we seen a bit more of Emil Smith-Rowe, a bit more of Reece Nelson, a bit more of Willock, whoever it might be, I'd have been a little bit more forgiving. But when you're spending silly money on players like Willian, that really grates on me. And the other thing as well, like just from a human element, you've got to look at people and you've got to say, look, Turkish, if you're doing a job 5 minutes down the road from where you live, and then you lose that job and you need to find a new one, and another company says, yeah, we're 5 minutes the other way, come and work for us, you're probably going to see a hell of a lot of convenience in that. You don't have to move home. You don't have to up and leave, all of that sort of stuff. Same is true for footballers. They've got children. They've got, other halves. They've got family who are used to a city, children in the school system. They've got a property they're happy with, all of that sort of stuff. When a 32-year-old guy like Willian is in London and he's being offered a chance to play for Arsenal on good money and he doesn't have to up and leave, he's going to take that. And I feel like you really have to honestly ask yourself, what is this guy's motivations? Is he coming here because he wants to, really move along in his career and he really has got hunger and ambition and wants to win something and really wants to be part of the Arsenal project? Or is it a case of, I'm already in London, another big club, good money, I might as well? And what have we seen so far from Willian? Very, very, well, one good performance. Other than that, very, very average, below average, in fact, and unauthorized trip to Dubai in a global pandemic, breaking national lockdown rules, and from what I understand, club advice or rules as well. Now, it doesn't seem to me like someone that's here out of desire and hunger. That, to me, sounds like someone who's here out of pure convenience.
Yeah.
The fact that the hierarchy at the club couldn't cotton on to that when they decided to give a 32-year-old a 3-year contract, a six-figure a week, 3-year contract, again, makes me think we're not using our resources properly. So Kroenke is an issue, of course, not enough resources, but then the resources we are using, and the manager that is just, accepting of it, or at worst, part of that decision-making, that's a massive problem as well.
Yeah, but yeah, everything you said is correct, and I agree with. It's just that when are we going to unite as a fan base against these main issues? Because it seems like we make these mistakes and we put it on the manager. The manager gets under pressure. He gets sacked, or with Wenger, it was mutual consent, whatever that is. And then we're back to square one again in terms of it's a new process to trust. But in reality, it's not a new process because we still have to hold the same people in charge now. And by in charge, I don't mean Arteta, I mean Kroenke and the ownership. We need to still hold them in charge of the decisions they made 5 years ago, the decisions they made 6, 7, 8 years ago, because that's what's led us down this path. We're a loss-making club now. We was the second richest when we left Highbury. Now we're a loss-making club. That's bound to get worse this year off the back of a last 32 elimination against Olympiacos and an 8th place finish and so on. The FA Cup doesn't bring in much revenue anymore in comparison to other revenue streams. And in essence, we've gone backwards because of all these decisions. And these decisions, as much as it pointed towards Wenger, it always pointed above too. But they just seem to get away with it anytime a new manager comes. And at the same time, that new manager is lumped with those bad decisions. Because Emery was lumped, and we're going to talk about him now, but Emery was lumped with the bad decision to give Ozil 350k. You gave him 350, and then you brought in a manager that doesn't even play a number 10.
But Turkish, you're talking about bad decisions, yeah? But it's bad decisions compounded by bad decisions, compounded by further bad decisions. You're going back to giving Ozil 350k a week. Tell me why we gave him 350k a week.
Bad decisions that led us down that path.
And that was because we had Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil both coming to the end of their contracts at the same time. And when Alexis obviously became clear that he wasn't going to sign and he was going to go off to United, it was that pressure, that desperation to keep, the other star boy at the club that led to the decision to give him 350k, because we had no negotiating position. Ozil's agent played a blinder. And I don't begrudge Ozil that money. In every walk of life, in every career, when the opportunity presents itself, you take advantage of that opportunity. You don't do the noble thing and say, no, this isn't the right. That's their job to do. You let them figure it out. If someone wants to sell you the house next door for half the market value, you're not going to tell them, no, please don't do that for me. You're going to say, fine, I'll take it. It's a free market. Everyone's got access to information. Everyone can make the right decisions if they want to, provided you're not exploiting someone. Do you know what I mean? You're not forcing someone or intimidating them. They played a blinder. I don't begrudge them that. But it's that bad decision we've seen 100 times at Arsenal, letting contracts run down. And that's what it is. So I do accept it is from above. And and you ask me, when will the fans unite? You're banging on a silent drum. I have seen fans of other clubs organize protests or do certain things, even if it's something dumb like throwing tennis balls onto a pitch, just to show togetherness, just to show the board that, look, we can get together. Arsenal have never, ever been able to do that. Arsenal fans, no matter how bad it got, there's never been unity in that respect. And the fact that you're banging on this drum now, when like that kind of like that wave, that tidal wave of, annoyance and passion from fans, it was at its peak with Arsene Wenger, is much lower now, isn't it? So you're asking a question that is not going to happen, Turkish. We're not going to unite as a fan base and put any pressure on the board, because we've become accepting of it. And that change of culture from the David Dean era to now, we've all become nose blind to. We forget sometimes what we were, and the fact that how far away from that we are now. You just said we got knocked out to Olympiacos in the last 32 and we finished 8th. That's where we are now. Yeah. Can you believe that we're saying those words as Arsenal fans?
And accepting it.
What happened last season, and there's no riots. There's no crime. It's just, okay, that's what we are. There's that acceptance.
It's more positivity than anything like that, which is why I asked the question, because I always thought that Wenger, like Kroenke used Wenger, and that caused the division. And I thought maybe post-Wenger, at one point, the fans will slap themselves in the face and think, hold on, we're arguing about the same thing here. Let's get together. But you are right, because as you spoke, that's the reality of the situation. And I do try to keep it as real as possible. And that is the reality. And that being the reality, for me, we're not winning a league title under this ownership. So the reality is, until new ownership, whenever that happens, because if Kroenke only cares about his pocket, it might happen in the next 5 years, because we are a loss-making club now. That is facts off the back of last year and accounts to come out in the next month for this year. Like you said, 8th and last 32 Europa League, Olympiacos. It's only got worse, and it doesn't look like it's going to get much better, if better at all. So I think there is some hope there that he will move on without the fan base uniting. But you are right. I think it is sad times, and without the fan base uniting, we're not going to be able to apply proper pressure. So we're going to have to rely on financial damage, and financial damage comes with poor performance. And this is what we're seeing now. This is why we're here, dejected, talking in this manner, rather than talking about how happy we are and how excited we are for the Christmas calendar. I remember how excited as I was growing up to the Christmas calendar of football. It was the best time of the year, because it was just back to back to back. Now, over the last 5 to 10 years, it's a depressing time as an Arsenal fan. You go into it thinking, let's just hold on.
Yeah, and I don't want this to be completely doom and gloom. Ultimately, we have got a young manager who's highly regarded in the game, who's inexperienced, and with experience, he might, improve our fortunes. But ultimately, as I said, last 32 and finishing 8th is the reality. And right now we're 12th in the league, in fact, and we're 7 points off top spot, because I'm looking at it right now. We'd arguably say after 9 games, we're already out the title race. Yeah. I mean, miracles can happen, but I don't really think that we're in the title race this season at all, and so it is a sad state of affairs, but what can you do, man? That's just the way it is. Honestly, this is laughable, but I'm looking at this season in a global pandemic, and I'm saying, thank God I'm not paying to watch these games.
Imagine. Yeah.
The 9 games, all of the traveling, the time taken out, the money you've spent on tickets and travel and this and that and the other to go and watch 4 wins. Yeah.
I thought that the other day, Mo. Me and Miles, the guy I come with to all the games. We was talking about how much we missed the away games, and about 5 minutes into the conversation, we said, but we know the first or second one we go to, we'll come back down to earth and remember how much we hated the drives back after a poor performance and a poor 90 minutes. So as much as the lockdown has been a negative impact across the world, I think you're right. Arsenal, I think it's refreshing that I haven't needed to spend as much money and use as much time. I've had a lot more time with my family and friends during this time. And we started the show talking about the way we approach Arsenal and emotions, and I might be a bit more aggressive with the way I say things, but people have said recently about me, Turkish is a lot more calmer, and he brings himself a lot more better in terms of the way I explain situations or my opinion. That might come back again when we go to games, because Mo, as you know, when you go to games and the adrenaline and the effort and all of that stuff, it brings out the emotions again. But I like the fact that we can have a conversation, and in reality, we know where we are as a club.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it and look at the positives, because like you said, you don't want it to be all doom and gloom. And overall, out of 10, what would you rate Arteta since his arrival?
Well, you know what? He's won a trophy. And that's what football is all about. Don't let anyone kid you otherwise. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And purely on that basis, I would say 7.
Okay.
Because, you know, I mean, you imagine, had we not won a trophy, it's awful. It'd probably be a 4. But you know, out of any trophy that he had a realistic chance of winning, out of all the trophies he had a realistic chance of winning, the fact that he's returned the FA Cup, that's no mean feat, and the team get to beat to get there. So only on that basis. But you know, as this season continues, if it continues in this vein, you know, as time goes and you've got more to judge him on, that rating drops and drops and drops.
Of course, of course.
Yes, it's really not good, man. It's really, really not good. But ultimately, it's this is what I was talking about in my interview after the last game. Arteta has managed very inconsistently.
Yeah.
So far. And that inconsistency is now visible in our results. I'm not saying that, because he's been inconsistent with Guendouzi and Ozil, Laka and Willian and, you know, that sort of thing, that we're necessarily going to have inconsistent results. But ultimately, you know, you can't expect, unless everything is aligned, then everything is going in the right direction. You can't expect, you know, the culture of a club to change. And the reality is, you know, we always talk about the good old days. That rot has been setting in for a long, long time. And then you do end up becoming nose blind to it. You don't really see it when it's happening. But one day you have to kind of take stock, look around and say, wow, we're an absolute shambles. And at that point, it's not a lick of paint that's required. It's a whole new build. Do you know what I mean? Whole proper refurb. And these things don't come cheap or easy. And, you know, I'm really hoping Arteta can change that culture like naturally, but it doesn't seem to be working right now. And I just wonder, when will that realization happen for a lot of the fans that, listen, we're not that club that we thought we were. We're not, you know, £1,000 season ticket prices and stuff, you know, that's completely not worth paying. Champions League is a long memory away. You know, when we stop winning FA Cups or whatever, if it continues in this path and we're struggling for trophies again and that sort of thing, then I think maybe fans will realise that, hold on a second, this is not the Arsenal that we knew, and at that point maybe we'll wake up.
Yeah, it's funny you say it's a distant memory, the Champions League, because the Bayern Munich game away was my first appearance on AFTV, because that's when I thought enough is enough, 5-1, and I still went back to the home leg 2 weeks after to see the 5-1 again, you know, and I don't want to be back in the Champions League to see that. I want to be back meaning business, and that gets shown before we enter top 4 again. The board and the club and the manager have to show us that before. And you said 7 out of 10, and I think that's fair. I would say 6, 7, but I'd lean more towards the organization and defense being his biggest pro for me, because we've won FA Cups before and it's papered over the cracks, but I haven't seen us as organized defensively as we have been prior to this last 2-3 weeks before Aston Villa and that period post-lockdown, maybe in over 4, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe. I'm not even sure the last time I saw us like that. And yes, it is a balance because we are playing more 8, 9 behind the ball, Mo. But it's something we haven't seen. And you just said winning trophies is all that matters. And there's a lot of people that want to see good football, but you need a base defensively.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Turkish, you know, like, it depends. I just think with football fans, you know, if we had seen a really defensively solid Arsenal, but nothing going forward, like you look at Stoke, for example, they got fed up with Pulis eventually. Even David Moyes at Everton, they wanted more at one point in time. Even Alan Kirbishley at Charlton, whoever remembers that, people start asking for more because, yeah, we're a solid set-up unit, but we want to see more going forward. With Arsenal, it's the way around. Because we've been good going forward, but not solid at the back, we want something different. And that's just football fans. We all kind of get, we want everything. We want the balance. We want what Liverpool have got. We want a good defense and a good attack. So football fans will forever go through that cycle. But the point is, you're saying it's a big positive for him. But for me, what he's done to our fluency going forward is a big negative as well. Like, it depends which way you look at it.
The only reason I look at it that way is because we got big wins against big sides. We've beaten big teams in the FA Cup to win it before, but I just think that the consistency we showed against big teams was something that we didn't see in a long time. So I took a lot from that, but obviously it looked like paper over the cracks again because a lot of them have opened up now, and now a lot of them have opened up. We've got the problem on hand, which is the attack and creativity. It's not a problem when you're finishing your 1-2 chances a game and you're winning, but when you're not, like Emery found out, it's a quick turnaround in terms of pressure. We got Wolves next, Mo, so I want to wrap up shortly. Do you need to wrap up anytime soon?
No, I'm all good, man. I'm all good. I'm not looking forward to Wolves. They're a really, really good team. They're a solid team, and I don't know if you saw Wolves Southampton the other day.
Yeah,
well against them, and that Southampton are doing very well in the league. But then Wolves, when they clicked into gear, God, it was non-stop. Southampton were really struggling to live with them. And, they got their goal. You could see it coming as well. And they will fancy themselves against Arsenal. Everyone will fancy themselves against Arsenal. And the thing is, with Arsenal right now, it's not just a case of, lads, we can beat these. It's also a case of, what a great team to beat. What a good victory to get under your belt. The fans go home happier when you beat a club like Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely.
Traditionally, we're a very, very big club. We're just not a big team right now. Playing like a big team, like big individuals. So it's kind of like an easy way to have like a good feather to your bow, or feather in your cap, sorry, to say, yeah, we've beaten Arsenal this season.
Yeah, you're right. Even for players too, because players then go on, and that's a story to tell their kids. Even if they don't have the best of careers, they got a goal against Arsenal, and YouTube's about now. You bang it on and show the kids, and why not? I'll do the same if it's the only goal I scored again in my career, let alone if I'm scoring consistently. But you're right. And we tend to be that team more often than not recently. And I'm not confident against Wolves. Good manager, good system, consistent over the last few years. We haven't done great against them. But
and you look at Villa, look at their results either side of the Arsenal game.
Yeah.
And then they go and batter Arsenal 3-0 at our place. It's
7 goals conceded before our game, both at home and both losses. And then that Leeds have only won 2 in the last 6 too. As much as we only won 2 in the last 6, so did they. And everyone thought that Leeds might do one on us, but that just shows how far we've fallen off because the form was pretty much the same. But do you want to give us any sort of prediction out of 6 points, Wolves and Tottenham? Firstly, what do you expect as the minimum, and what is realistic?
Minimum, and my expectation minimum is 4.
Okay.
Realistic, I
got a few coming in now. Kelvin says 1, maybe 2.
I didn't want
to. You're right, though. I think I'm leaning towards that because 4 is the minimum I would want and expect if we're going places. But 1 or 2 is probably what I'm leaning towards. And
I think we won personally, but this, how sad is this? I'm saying I think it'll be 1, but almost hoping it'll be 2. 2 is not good enough. It's not what I'm hoping for, but it's just that why that is, because I do not want to lose to those lot.
Yeah. No, I get you, and it's just sad that we're both thinking along the same lines. We want to be more positive, but it needs to come from the club too. And at the moment, if we started this show 2 weeks ago, just before the Aston Villa game, it would have been a different vibe. But that's why we'll bring this to you guys once a month, and hopefully, next month or in a few weeks, we're doing a lot better. We come off the Tottenham game with maybe 3 points. Don't quote me on that, people, but hopefully we do. And And the show will be about something better and Arteta figuring out the problems yet again. Because Mo, one thing about Arteta that I didn't mention is after lockdown, we had the Man City game and the Brighton game where obviously it didn't go well for one reason or another. He changed it up then in terms of formation and style of play. We wasn't as defensively shaped as we was prior to that. And he had a good 3 months in charge of games. So I don't think this is his ideal philosophy. But he has shown that he can change it up and make it work. That's why I've got hope in him doing it again. Do you remember that change? And do you think off the back of that, that's shown something?
Well, do you know, again, it's all too inconsistent. Like we showed a lot against United, but then look what we did against Villa. I'm not reading too much into it, but it's interesting you talk about a change because I've been thinking recently, especially now with Pepe suspended and me not really craving Willian back in the starting lineup. I just think that Aubameyang and Lacazette, for me, they've been at their best when they're working closely together on the pitch, when the distance between them two is not too far. I think they link quite well. And I'm just thinking, why not just go for whatever you do, basically a 2 up top, 5-3-2, 4-4-2, whatever it might be, 3-5-2, I don't mind. But I almost think that maybe we should give that a go now because we don't have the creativity for 1 up top to work. So if we have Reece Nelson and Saka, for example, on the wings, and we say to them, go and do a proper winger's job, and Aubameyang and Lacazette, if you two can actually work together like they have done in the past, because I think they really enjoy playing with each other and get each other, you know, on a mental level.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe that could be a decent change. But, you know, Turkish as well, I want to ask you about what you think about Pepe now. He's obviously got that red card. He's come out and apologised or whatever. How do you rate his time so far? And how do you think what's the future for him at Arsenal?
Yeah, Michael, we'll get to this question in a minute. Let me answer this question about Pepe, but we'll round up with that question later. Regarding Nicolas Pepe, I was a big fan of the signing. You know, someone I was looking into 6 months prior to us even signing him. Very underwhelming. I think the chances he's been given. He's been productive in spurts, but not consistent enough. But then I look at the chances he's been given, and he hasn't even been given 5 league games in a row. And even in the 3-4 games in a row he has played, 1 minute it'll be Nketiah striker, the next it'll be Lacazette. He's even played with Willian up top, and behind him he's played with Maitland-Niles, he's played with Bellerin and Cedric. So in both positions where you try to form a partnership, he hasn't had consistency himself. So can I expect consistency from him when both his playing time and the personnel around him haven't been consistent? Probably not. But for 72 mil, I expect a lot more ownership. And regardless of some of those facts, I have expected more. The red card now, silly, stupid. I don't expect that in Sunday league football, let alone professional football. You don't fall for them tricks. Everyone tries it in every match. You don't fall for them tricks. But come the 3-match ban, if it's me as manager, I put him straight back in the starting lineup because I assess the situation over the next 2-3 Europa League games, and I say to myself, if I want him to come back and I want him to be confident and I want him to brush this aside, then we'll see how he reacts in those Europa League games. But ideally, in my head, I would look to bring him back into the squad soon enough.
Fair enough, yeah. But there's a lot about him, and the price tag always comes up. Personally, I'm over the price tag. You know, obviously, when you sign a big money player, you get excited about it. But, you know, he hasn't played like a £72 million player. But the only thing I would say about Pepe is that I think a lot of people forget how good his return was in his first season. If we just focus on the league, I've got the stats up here, 5 goals and 6 assists. And that's in a team that finished 8th in the league. Yeah. And now when I look back and we think of like our great wingers and wingers who we feel like had really good goal scoring contributions, Ljungberg is one, Perez is another that come to mind. Yeah. Ljungberg in his first season, I pulled the stats up here, 26 appearances, 6 goals, 2 assists. Yeah. Robbie Perez, 33 appearances, 4 goals, 7 assists.
Yeah, you can see.
So goals and assists, Robert Perez, 11 in 33. Pepe, last season, 6 in 31. Ljungberg in his first season, 8 in 26.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about first seasons here. But let's not forget, Pires and Ljungberg were playing with much better players in a much better Arsenal team that was much higher up in the league. So we have to look at Pepe with balance and say, yeah, he hasn't set the world alight, but he has been good.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at it like that, obviously he has been inconsistent. He does need to get used to the league. There are moments where we're a bit frustrated with him because, you know, he's not maybe direct enough or he slows the pace down a little bit too much. But he's got his own very weird, hard to read style of play. But it's that unpredictability that gets the goals. And I think we have seen that there have been glimpses of him where we can kind of say, yeah, he's got some real talent, whether that's an incredible finish, whether that is, you know, skinning a defender or a sublime piece of skill or whatever it might be. I do think there's a player in there. So I'd agree with you. I'd put him back in the team. And I think we have to remember, you know, this second season isn't working out like we hoped, but the first season was actually good when you look at how players adapt to their first seasons. And that, you know, you touched upon it. How consistent of a run, how consistent of a chance has he actually been given in the team? Let's get it properly.
No, 100%. And even off the top of my head, because I've had this argument before, and Pulisic's numbers are not too far off. I know they are better for his first season, but they're not far off. But you see the difference in reception from social media. You know, sometimes the clickbait and sometimes the stick to batter Arsenal with is a lot more vocal and a lot more appealing to the other fans than the realism. And what you said about Pepe is true. I think we need to be a lot more balanced and give him more time and understand that the platform hasn't been the best for him since he's come into the country anyway. You know, we can't really judge him fairly. But we've got a super chat here from Dan. It says, is it realistic that we will sign a creative midfielder in January? Knowing our history of signings, if we don't sign, where will we end? So let's start off with the first part, Mark. Do you think it's realistic that we sign a creative midfielder in January?
I don't know anymore. I didn't think it was realistic that we would sign Thomas Partey after making 55 people redundant, but we did that. So I really don't know. If Szoboszlai is available for his reported release clause, then I just feel like we have to be in for him. We really do. So I don't know, man. Hopefully, if you get someone of his quality at the price that's being reported, then hopefully we would make that move. We'd be silly not to.
Yeah, 100%. I think if that is the case and that is the price, you don't want to give any more teams any more time to sniff around, because 25 million is a steal. Turkey have played Hungary twice. To be honest, he didn't play in the second leg, but he played in the first, and we was linked January. So I've been keeping a closer eye, and he looks like someone we need. But if we wasn't to get anyone in January and this current team, then it asks, where will we end? How do you feel right now? And you can say, when people ask me, where do you think we'll finish? I tend to say 4th to 10th. I give it a bracket because I don't know, but I can assume whereabouts. So where do you think we'll finish this season?
All right, well, let's take it this way. Do we think Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leicester will finish above us?
Yeah, let me not say Tottenham yet, because I still hope for Jose to crash and burn with the club.
I think he will, but currently, if we're looking at it, I'd say, yeah, they probably. Then we've got Southampton, Villa, West Ham above us. I've missed Everton out because I put them as, yes, they're going to finish above us. Southampton, Villa, West Ham, I'd hope no. Wolves, yes, they're probably going to finish above us. Looking at, you know, the way we're all playing right now. Man United, I'd say, yes, they're probably going to finish above us. Man City are below us. They're probably going to finish above us. Where does that put us? Put us about 8th again?
Yeah, it might even be further down. I thought I was the ruthless one here, but things have changed over lockdown, people. We got a new Mo and a new Turkish. It's opposite.
Be really, really realistic. You know, let's not forget everything that we say. People can like crop it and put it on social media. I'm not positive for the sake of being positive. Yeah, I'd rather call it correctly. And right now, if I'm being really, really honest with what I've seen, I see 7 teams that will finish above us in the league. So I think probably, you know, probably 8th, you know, given the way we're playing. And that's the big caveat. Can Arteta really improve us and get us playing better? I hope so. In which case, you know. No. But I don't think we're qualifying for Champions League. And I feel like, it could be a repeat of last season.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And talking about transfer windows and whatnot, we're 55 minutes in. We'll do 5 more minutes, people, round it up to an hour. There's 700 people here. Make sure you hit the like button and continue getting your questions and thoughts in. appreciate all the love. I see Mo's getting a lot of love. I'm getting a lot of love. The show's getting a lot of love. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying. But Mo, let's say the summer transfer window comes, we don't do any moves in January, but in the summer, all those contracts free up, about 700, 800. And forget Champions League football for a sec, but let's just say we're in a position to buy 4 positions, not in order, but 4 positions that we need to improve upon next summer.
Well, I say centre-back. We've got a centre-back that we've signed and don't play. So I don't know what's going on with that one. I feel like again, it's very difficult, Turkish, because I would say we need another winger, but we've got flipping Willian, for years. So how do we manage that? I don't really understand that.
What's the long term? Because if Aubameyang is up top, then we need a left winger potentially to back up Saka if that's his long term. But is that Saka's long term position? Where's Willian gonna? You're right. There's so many questions.
Because the thing is, Willian can play anywhere. Apparently, if he can play anywhere across that front. The one thing I would say is that the central attacking midfielder is the obvious answer. That's one signing we definitely need. It depends how we view Laka and his contract situation as well. I really wanted Laka at the club, and I have to admit it, but I just don't think he's the same player. And I'm sorry, when I hear about him, popping laughing gas, repeatedly, I just don't see that seriousness there. For all of Aubameyang's fair enough. People say he's 31 years old, he's got slits in his eyebrows and wraps his cars stupid colours. I don't care about any of that because he does the business. To me, for whatever you say about him and how childish he might be or whatever, he takes his football seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does take his football seriously, and I love him for that. So in my book, you can do whatever the hell you like, provided you're doing the basic of taking your football seriously. But with Laka, I guess I would say, if I'm being ruthless, yeah, fine. I don't mind if he goes out, in which case we need another striker. And we need a striker that can give us a bit of a plan B as well. Edin Dzeko, a striker in his mould, he can do a lot on the ground, but also he gives you that plan B in the air. And we've seen Arsenal in recent weeks putting silly numbers of crosses in, and I'm thinking, who are they meant to be going to?
No one, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's 2 changes I'd make. But look, if it was up to me, I'd have Willian out, and I'd be getting another decent winger in. But then I'd also be looking at Emil Smith-Rowe, because I'd like to see him get more minutes as well in the first team.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is because I actually think we need 3 people in the middle, still on top of Partey. I think Ceballos can go back to wherever Real Madrid at the end of the season. I don't think that project is working out. And I don't think he will make it work out in the next 5 months. I think Xhaka, you know my opinion, so I don't need to.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Listen, the thing is with Xhaka, I always say to people, he's much better than he was.
Yeah.
Still not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. El Nene tested maybe the 5th, 6th choice centre mid I'd be happy with, but nowhere near the starting lineup. So I look at it and think Partey, 2 centre mids and 1 attacking mid. And that's already 3 in the middle. Then I think about potentially an improvement in the right back area, the centre back area. If Saliba's still not ready next year, he'll only be 20 years old. We'll see how that works out. You're right, a winger. Because if Oba moves up top, then Saka might need some competition on the left. There's still so many positions to sort out, Mo. But we are coming up to an hour, and there was a question earlier that I do want to ask you. And what happens if we lose our next 2 games?
Well, nothing. That's the problem, isn't it? Nothing will happen. Yeah. We'll complain. We'll get ripped apart on social media. A club will get slated in the press. Arteta will do some good press conferences, say all the right things, but nothing will happen. And it's not unrealistic to think that we might be in that situation. But what pressure would be big.
Yeah. I think it's not unrealistic either. I think it's got to be considered. And the reason I say it's got to be considered is because I think if you foresee something coming, you can approach it a lot more and deal with it a lot more balanced. And I think that's what's happened to me over the years. I think Arsenal have got to me so much that I'm reading the same story I know how it ends. What's the point? You know, it's a show I've watched before.
That's obviously the next two league games. We're not talking about Europa League there. You know, in
no, league games. Yeah. Next two league games. Yeah. But there's over 700 people in here, Mo. Get the likes up, like Taylor said. Mo, I appreciate you giving me your time. I know you're a busy man and working man and all of that. Someone else, TJ, was asking, spamming, stop the spamming, but he was asking, is this going to be a regular show? So I guess he spammed with something positive. And we told you guys at the beginning, as many times as we can a month, potentially 1-2 times a month. I'll try get it done. I will message Mo and try get it done. But we might as well give it a few weeks in between, so the stories and the form builds up, because there's only so much moaning we can do about the same thing.
Exactly that. But listen, I appreciate each and every one of you 700 tuning in, man. It's good to talk Arsenal. And hopefully we've done it in a fair way, not overly negative, not overly positive, no agendas. We're not trying to get views or memes or any stupid stuff like that. And that's why I came on Turkish, because I know you keep it real. You don't do it for you know, silly reasons.
No, I don't. You know, my intention initially opening myself up to fan cams and that was to try and push the attention in the ownership's direction. And till this day, 2-3 years later, I'm still trying to do the same thing. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to fade into the background. I don't want to be a celeb or a meme or anything like that. So what'd you say, Mo? Sorry, I didn't hear that last bit.
Yeah. It's not about that. No sort of diva mentality here. We're like 700 people watching. It's just 700 mates having a chat right now. That's all it is.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I've got the chat involved. And yeah, we will be back as soon as possible, people. Look out for the thumbnail. And yeah, Mo, like I said, I appreciate it, bro. Your socials quickly before you go.
At Arsenal MOH on Twitter and Instagram, and that's it. That's all I can be bothered with. So
yeah, I hear that. We're busy men. So yeah, you know where Mo is, you know where I am, people. Hit the like button and comment after the video gets processed. Appreciate your time tonight. Go and catch some of that Champions League football. And yeah, we'll catch up. Love, people. Love.